hey, man, what's up? You got a delivery? And he's like, no, man, I'm here for you. And I'm like, oh, what? And he's like, yeah, we're going to be friends. And I'm like, we're going to what now? Right. And then, like, this is where I'm going to get really insulting. This will get me in a lot of trouble. But, like, I'm not a particularly intelligent person. I think I'm slightly above average, but barely, if that. Maybe just average, right? That said, sometimes we're dealing with people who are dumber than me, and that's pretty fucking scary because I am not that bright. So sometimes we're dealing with people who genuinely believe anything they read on the internet, or genuinely cannot understand context, or genuinely cannot understand the world around them. Those are some of those dangerous people. Those are also some of the people who might show up at your front fucking door one day with a gun. So I don't know. Those, like, sometimes you're dealing with some, like, when you put yourself out there, you're dealing with some really crazy, scary people. And unfortunately, I have an anxiety disorder. And so when you talked about mental health earlier, that's my biggest issue. Is like I'm so terrified that one of these, like, crazy pieces of shit are gonna fucking show up my front door. And I've had somebody show up my front door. I've had a couple people now show up my front door. So
do they have bad intent? Like, I've had a lot of people show up at my front door, but usually they like me.
I had one guy had like really scary intent. He wanted to be my best friend, and he said he Googled me. He's like, I don't even remember driving here. He was like super creepy. I had another guy show up at my front door, and he's like, I don't like what you have to say on the internet. I was like, okay. And I just closed the door, and that was it. And he left.
Wait,
like, I'm not going to engage with that guy.
That initial first guy, I want to know a little more. Like, he showed up and said, I don't even remember driving here. I want to be your best friend.
So I open my front door, and I'm like expecting a delivery, and it's some just dude in a delivery van, like a flower delivery truck. And I open the door, and I'm like, hey, man, what's up? You got a delivery? And he's like, no, man, I'm here for you. And I'm like, oh, what? And he's like, yeah, we're going to be friends. And I'm like, we're going to what now? And so I didn't have a gun at the time. I do now. But I had a baseball bat that I kept next to the door. So I reached over and grabbed my baseball bat where he couldn't see me doing it. And I'm like, so tell me your story, buddy. And he goes, well, I really relate to you, and I really like what you're doing, and I really like I like your videos and stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is all good stuff so far. I'm not like baseball bat ready, you know. And he's like, oh yeah, right. It's exactly that. It's exactly that. I'm just like, it's over here in the corner, and my friend Chad, my roommate Chad, he's the one who put it there, and he's like, in case, you know, just in case. I'm like, all right. Well, this was the in case. This was the case, right? So I lean over, I'm grabbing the fucking thing. I'm like, all right, tell me more. I've got it here behind the door, you know. And he's like, I know, watching your videos and like listening to all this stuff. And I just knew, like, I knew we had so much in common with the video games and the abuse and growing up abused. And I'm like, I just knew all I had to do was meet you. One day, if I met you, we'd be best friends. And so I'm watching one of your videos, and you mentioned that you lived in Northwest Arkansas. And I don't even remember doing it, but I remember flopping over to Internet Explorer, and I searched for your name, and your address was there. I'd just gotten doxxed one of the first times. And there was your address. So I got into my car, and I started driving, and now I'm here, and I don't even remember driving here. I just know that we're going to be best friends. And I'm like,
gee, this is scary as fuck.
Dude, the red flag for me was Internet Explorer. This guy's fucked.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, dude, so this is not how this is done. Like, any chances of us becoming friends was shot to shit the moment you rang my doorbell, okay? And he goes, no, don't say that. Don't say that. And I'm like, dude, who do you work for? Like, is that your boss's van? Because your boss probably wouldn't like you driving your van here to do something like that, don't you think? And he's like, you're right. I shouldn't have done this. I should have thought. I'm like, yeah, you definitely should have thought. Go home and write me a letter the way anybody else would, and we'll see. I'm not saying there's a 0% chance. I'm saying you screwed it up pretty bad, but maybe if your letter is like cool, like maybe we'll talk in email, and then we'll see what happens from there. But dude, I've got plenty. Yeah, I got plenty of friends, but you can't show up at someone's door like this, okay? Like, it's not cool. It's scary. There's dangerous people out there, and I don't know if you're dangerous. No, dude, I'm not dangerous. I'm here to be your friend. I just want to be your best friend. I want to be close. I need a friend. I'm like, and I get that. And I get that. So go home and write me a letter.
I want to go.
Now this is making me sad.
You got to go Chris Hansen at that point. Let me ask you a question, Bill. Did you bring anything with you? Well, what do you mean? Is there a plastic bag in your car full of items? Perhaps. Well, yeah, I brought some things, but you know, that doesn't mean I'm intending on doing it. What'd you bring? Well, there's a stun gun. Yeah. What else? There's a club. Yeah. What else? A couple rolls of duct tape, some plastic sheeting.
Heard you're down for pegging.
Well, I heard you mention how you like peanut butter cups, so a few of those that I've placed leading out to the back of the van.
Two things I know about you is you like peanut butter cups and you're open to pegging.
I brought magic cards. I brought magic cards. I figure, I bind you, tie you up a little bit, feed you some peanut butter cups. We play a few games of Magic. I stun you a few times. We have a good old time. Come on.
His letter was very much a manifesto. It had no paragraphs, no periods. It was all just words vomited into an email.
Oh God!
And it was just like fucking 3 pages of I'm like, I'm done. I don't even know what any of this crazy shit is or what it means. But
well, if it wouldn't divulge too much about him, that's private. Like, what was kind of the vibe of the manifesto?
I skimmed it because it was unreadable the way it was written. And so I was just like, I don't want to even get engaged at this point because I've got too much shit going on. My marriage is finally starting to fall apart. It was the first beginning of that, and I'm dealing with that. And we were looking at buying a house, which is why we bought the house, by the way. I wanted to get the fuck out of that apartment once I got doxxed and people started showing up, dude.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I had a similar story that went the other way, right? So I'm at home. We're doing whatever home stuff. And the doorbell rings, and I come there, and it's a stranger who's in my demographic. I'll say a young guy, 18 years old or something. And he goes, and he's got his Irish accent or something, and he's like, Woody, I came here all the way from Ireland to see you. That's my Irish accent. And I'm just like, oh my God. This is so amazing. What a super fan. He came here from Ireland to see me. And he's like, yeah. And I'm visiting University of North Carolina 30 minutes down the road. But, those 2 reasons. And I'm like, right. Yeah, he came from Ireland to see me. But he turned out to be really cool. Yeah, it always went the same way, roughly. They'd be really nice. I do my best to, ask them about themselves. We'd do a selfie, and, that was it.
That's when it's helpful to have a very young demographic, I would imagine. Like the people that would show up to your doorstep, Woody, versus the people who would show up at some other people's doorsteps. The demographic, even if you get a crazy fucking 18-year-old or a 16-year-old who's brought there by a guardian or something like that, what's the worst could happen? But when you've got I don't know, some 40-year-old dude who's become obsessed with you or whatever, that's when it's really scary, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm thinking about I hope mentioning his name doesn't cause any issues. Hickok45 is really into gun issues, and he's if people don't know, Hickok45 is an encyclopedia of gun knowledge, it seems. And he was a teacher, so he just sort of lays out and teaches you about these weapons. Mm-hmm. And I can only imagine that he has guys who are also, I don't know how old he is, I'm going to call him 50, who are also 50, who I want to be your friend, and, maybe just a little off-center.
Yeah. I mean, I've watched Hickok 45 videos where I've thought, I want to be this guy's friend. He seems awesome. The little things he'll know, he'll shoot his gun and be like, now the thing to know about this, a little bit of history, is actually in 45, they did another version post-war that had XYZ in preparation for Korea, or what would be Korea. They didn't know. And he'll have just a litany of details, and I'm sitting there learning something about a gun that I don't even care about. I'm like, really? That's fascinating.
He's a nice guy. I've met him 4 or 5 different times, at various gun shows and meetups and stuff like that. Always been. He's got a good sense of humor. He's very self-deprecating. And he's definitely got a sillier side that I think he feels like he's not able to explore in his videos. And whenever we kind of palled around a little bit, that's kind of what we discussed. He's got videos where he's in his smart car or whatever, that ridiculous tiny little super lame car. Doing drive-bys on targets in the forest and stuff like that, and that. But that's not really what people want from him, I guess. So he does those long format educational videos. But he's definitely got a sillier side where I'm sure he'd like to be out there just smashing pumpkin men or something like that.
What's neat about him? So his channel, he covers all kinds of guns, from modern things you'd find in a Danish army or something to old school stuff, and it's the cowboy era that always captures my imagination. I want some cowboy revolvers. I need more lever action guns. It's I feel like I saved a lot of money by not going down the wrong roads for me, because on his channel I just see what I like. It's cool. Well, I want a big table with leather on it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, he'll take
where did that come from?
He has it. He has a big table with leather. He just he reloads and stuff, and he lays the guns down. I'm like, I need that.
Got his nice loading table that's probably 6 feet high because he's a giant person.
Yeah. He's a giant person.
But what's so impressive with him is he'll take like a Ruger LCR, which is a hammerless, small, like self-defense revolver, and there's no hammer, so it's a full trigger pull every time, and he'll be like, let's see if we can hit the gong over there 200 yards away on my first shot with a Ruger LCR, and then he'll like pop it twice and be like, someone's getting lucky today. I couldn't do this on a normal day. And it's like, you son of a bitch. Like, that's like Wayne Gretzky being like, I put up 200 points this season and dominated everyone, but we all have luck sometimes. It's like, yeah, Wayne, but you did this last season too. Like,
he could edit, but it doesn't seem like incredible.